Welcome to EO Talks, Eastern Oregon's very own talk show, only here on EOAlive.
So I'm Casey Kulla. I'm a Yamhill County Commissioner. Yamhill County is in between the Portland metro area and Marion and Polk County. So my wife and I have farmed for the past 15 years on a river island in the middle of the Willamette River, just north of the Wheatland Ferry, which is the oldest continuously operating ferry in North America, I think. We grow certified organic row crop vegetables year round, and we've grown OLCC licensed cannabis, so weed, for the past 6 years, and we just recently sold our license. I've been a Yamhill County Commissioner since 2018. I unseated an incumbent, and I ran specifically because I wanted to make sure that farmer, rural voices, and science was being part of the decision-making process at the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners. That was very important to me, especially around land use. Most people don't really have a lot of engagement in the land use process until something comes up next to their farm, their ranch, their home. And to me, it was really important that we had a farmer, a rural resident, and a scientist making part of the decision-making process.
Awesome. Can you talk a little bit more about the work you do as a county commissioner?
Yeah, so as county commissioner, the most basic thing that we do is we approve the budget each year for the county government. And in Yamhill County, we have about 650 employees, and this year we have a $175 million budget. We approve contracts, so that ranges from we approve the surplus, declaration of surplus, and the sale of retired firearms from the sheriff's office, all the way to approving our public health contract with the Oregon Health Authority. And then on top of that, we make all of the final land use decisions in our county. So we'll approve whether to expand a regional landfill, approve a gravel quarry, or something as simple as a zone change from very low density residential to commercial. So big scale to small scale. And then we also set the policy for the county. So really the direction of county government and where it's headed is kind of set by the Board of Commissioners. And then we act as the voice of the county to other levels of government, whether that's the city, school boards, soil water conservation districts, or to the legislature.
Awesome. Well, that's a lot of hard work.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest though, Alex, I feel just honored to be able to do it every single day. It's one of the most direct forms of government because we interact, the three commissioners interact on a daily basis with like everybody in the county, from mayors to fire chiefs, to the person just down the block who really needs that pothole fixed. So I feel like it's one of those real pure forms of government where you get as directly, you get as close as possible to individuals in their lives. I mean, we're still a representative form of democracy. We're not that pure, like we all vote on everything. But I always know how our county residents feel about every issue when we're deciding it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it is. And actually, I think that that's one of the challenges it feels weird, as you like move up levels of government, is that there are layers just because of the number of people that you're representing. Yamhill County and other counties are very, very close to the opinions and the voices of individuals in their community. Whereas a legislator has a staff that in a way separates, buffers them from people in the community. And then you get to the governor and there's a staff and there are agency heads and there's staff at the agencies and there's legislators and there's legislative staff and there's attorneys. At the county level, we really are interacting with the people who vote for us, who pay our wages. So I was raised in Lincoln City, born and raised in Lincoln City at the beach as a fifth generation Oregonian. I spent a lot of time surfing, a lot of time in the mountains, in the Coast Range. And so when I went to school, I managed to graduate, and I went to school at Western Washington University in Bellingham, Washington. And in the summers before between high school and college, I spent running a wilderness camp in the BC Coast Range, so in British Columbia. At Western Washington University, I met my wife, Katie, and we got married pretty quickly. So we've been married for 21 and a half years now, and I'm not that old, so it's been most of both of our lives. It's the majority. My wife got an undergraduate degree in English, and I got a bachelor's degree in biochemistry, and I did protein biochemistry research. But while we were going to school, I was also working part-time for the university as a plumber's apprentice, which is an amazing, the juxtaposition to be able to be in two worlds, both the trades world and the world of academia and of research. I really cherished that time of being able to see so many different worlds all at once. And then after we graduated from college, we went and we moved to the mountains to a community in the North Cascades, where I was running the water system. I helped run the hydro, all the plumbing systems for this community, and my wife ran the kitchen and food service. So we lived in the mountains for several summers and then a year, and we came back to Bellingham for graduate school. I got my master's in forest ecology, and I did my research up in the watershed that provides the drinking water and the fire water and the hydro for this small community in the North Cascade Mountains. And I specifically was looking at, is there a connection between climate change out in the greater area, so warming of the atmosphere as we pump carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, just basic science, basic physics. Is this small watershed that has a glacier, is the glacier melting over time? And has the seasonality of water changed over time? And what is it related to if it has changed? Which drives a lot of the decisions that I make these days. Is I'm always thinking about water. Like, where is the water coming from? How much are we using? How much is coming in? Is it good quality or not? Because water is, to me, the basis of our lives, especially in the West. So after graduate school, while we were in graduate school, we were also working on a certified organic row crop vegetable farm. And at the end of that, we said, which one do we want to do? Are we going to go into the world of academia and do research, or are we going to go into the world of farming? And farming was a hell of a lot more fun. I'll just say that. So we moved back down to Oregon, because I knew that land use laws here made it so that if we wanted to farm a piece of land, really farm it rather than just live on it in rural Oregon, that we could afford to buy it or rent it. It was something that was doable. So we came back down to Oregon and set on our sights to buy the best soil that we could afford and the most water. That was really our target focus. And we found a piece of land on Grand Island, which is a river island in the Willamette, where we found Class 1 soils and senior water rights. And we were able to start our farm right away. And that was 15 seasons ago. And we've been full-time certified organic farmers ever since. We really only sell directly to families and restaurants and grocery stores in Yamhill County, which has limited, obviously, our markets, but it's allowed us to really build community around the farming and the food. So people come out to the farm, they share in the harvest. What we have that week is the thing that they get. And we really have been able to connect food and the people who eat it in a really tight way. So yeah, Yamhill County is, I feel like, really representative of Oregon. And the reason I say that is that we're a county that is not, it's by registration, it's 1/3 Democrats, 1/3 Republicans, and 1/3 unaffiliated voters. That's just among registered voters. But again, we have 108,000 people in our county, and I think 25% of those people live in unincorporated areas. And then another 25% live in the small cities. And I'm talking about 700 to 1,200 people. And then another quarter, or whatever, another half of them live in our big cities of 25,000 to 30,000 people. So it's really like urban and rural Oregon in that way. And we have almost no suburban areas, though. And the thing about Yamhill County that makes it, I feel like a microcosm of the rest of Oregon, is that we have the Coast Range productive timberlands, both federal lands and commercial private timberlands. And we have 3 rivers. We've got the north and south fork of the Yamhill, and the Willamette runs along us too. And then we've got this big chunk of farm ground, and we can grow just about anything that you can grow in Oregon here in Yamhill County. So the basis of our culture and of our economy is agriculture and forestry. But on top of that, we also have something that's also a microcosm of Oregon, in that we have a fairly thriving visitor economy. So we have tourists who come here specifically for the wine scene, because we have a lot of grapes that grow in Yamhill County. And so it's a farm product that we manufacture into a value-added product, and then people come and visit here specifically to taste and buy it. And because of that, I feel like there's just an amazing amount of innovation and diversity of ideas all together in one small place.
Sounds like a great community. Can you tell me?
And it really is, like, it's amazing how there's like a little bit of every other place in Oregon here.
Yeah, I've been there once. It was really nice. So
it's great.
Yeah, great area.
But the one thing that we really need, that I feel like other parts of Oregon maybe have in greater amounts. So what I was saying is that in Yamhill County, unlike maybe other parts of Oregon, we're really an open space desert, in that there are few places that a person can easily access, that are easily accessible to an average person to just be outside. So we have the Willamette River, and you can be on the Willamette River, and it's free and it's accessible. It's public land, but it's hard to get to. There are very few boat ramps. There are very few parking lots, greenway areas. And likewise, the north and south fork of the Yamhill are almost inaccessible to people, except for the most intrepid kayaker, really. And then the Coast Range, we have public land, but because of the tradition of the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management checkerboard, we have a little piece here and a little piece here and a little piece here and a little piece here, and they're interspersed with private timberland that's very hard to get past, because most private timberland owners gate their land. And so, like some other areas, we have a real challenge with being able to get outside, recreate, hunt, and fish, go for a mountain bike ride, go and forage for mushrooms, simply because the public land is inaccessible. And so that's actually one thing that I've worked on a lot here in the county, is building up that access to public lands. And that's, I guess, one of the things about this, is that there's with access to public lands comes responsibility and cost, right? If you lock up the public lands, or if private owners don't allow you to access public lands over their land or through their roads, it's because it's costly for them. So we really have to figure out that balance of how to pay for it while providing the access, because I feel like public land is one of the most important things that we have in our community. It's one of those like deep assets that we can all access if we can get to it. So one of the things I hear almost universal is that people are tired of the divisiveness that's in our society right now. So the disagreement about seemingly everything, that everything has a partisan bent to it and a way of dividing people. It's like everything has become a wedge issue. And so what I hear a lot from people is the desire to have somebody bring them together, because they don't feel like they can do it on their own, or they feel really daunted by that task. But oddly, I hear from people across Oregon about the same issues that they're worried about. And they talk about mental health and mental health access and crisis. They talk about homelessness, and they talk about public lands, and they really talk about divisiveness. And those are issues that the problem is the same. The diagnosis, like, oh, there's a problem with homelessness. Okay. But the solution is often different depending upon the community. And I think that sometimes people forget that. I should say leadership sometimes forgets that when they're like, how can we solve this problem? Is that really often the solution needs to come from within the community. So I would say that probably the person who has most impacted my life physically, like literally and physically, having grown up on the beach and having farmed or farming land on Grand Island, class 1 soil in the middle of the Willamette River, is Tom McCall. And I mean, I realize that that's many people talk about Tom McCall, but he literally was the champion of the beach bill and land use. And I realize that land use is different in different communities and how we feel about it. But the fact that I can sit here and look out over, we have 17 acres and then 30 acres, 2 parcels, and there are no subdivisions around us. Like, I know that nobody's going to get pissed if I mow tonight, because I have a cover crop field that really needs to get mowed. Or if my neighbor is spraying, it's like, that's fine because nobody's parked next to them. So land use has fundamentally shaped our place, our landscape here. And the beach bill meant, as a child, I spent most of my time on the beach and I didn't have to pay for it because it belongs to all of us. So it's definitely Tom McCall's passion and his advocacy for the beach. It has been huge to my life. And then his advocacy and his passage of land use in Senate Bill 100 has shaped how I'm able to farm. It's a great question, Alex. You know, I was raised in the conservative Baptist congregation, and my life has been shaped by many different churches. The community that we lived at in the North Cascades was a Lutheran intentional community, for example. But I hold on to a lot of values from those traditions. But what I've also learned over the years is, that even flies can attack me while I'm in the middle of an interview. Sorry. What I have fundamentally brought out of that as an adult in the world is that every single person needs to be treated like the human that they are, to really recognize their humanity and their right to have a life that's fulfilling and satisfying on their own terms. And I feel like so many of the decisions that I make out in the world come back to that. Now, I've got a whole list of my values on my website, but they all can trace back to that, is that recognizing the fundamental humanity of each individual person, and then recognizing and valuing and tending and taking care of the natural world upon which our lives depend. So those are the two that really drive it. And they definitely come from the tradition that I was raised in, but they're also shaped by just living a life in this amazing place that we have. I'd say probably the most petty criticism, but one that I've heard over the years is, Casey, why do you feel the need to laugh and to make jokes and to be lighthearted about things that are so serious? And this is literally something that I have been challenged on in the past. To me, bringing joy to every single decision, down to the most serious and somber, is part of living. If we can't have joy, what is there? So we'll be in a land use hearing about whether to expand a landfill, which pollutes the area but provides jobs and is important for people in order to be able to afford their garbage. But if we can't have a little bit of joy and a little bit of lightheartedness that builds the relationships between one person and another, what do we have? I feel like so many times the joy that we can share together is part of building trust. And really, building trust is part of that democratic process. So to me, that joy and that lightheartedness that some people are like, why are you doing that? Isn't this about being serious right now? Is really about enforcing and strengthening democracy. The other criticism that I would anticipate, Alex, is obviously that I'm a county commissioner and most of our governors have come out of the legislature ultimately. So you could phrase that in many ways. I try not to phrase things in the negative, but what I have heard from some people is, why don't you go to the legislature first? You know, what's the thing with going right from being a county commissioner to governor? But you know what, Alex, one of the things that I've noticed is that when you're in the legislature, the solutions that you can think of, your universe of solutions, are legislative, right? The world is comprised of solutions from the legislature that are law, statute, rule. But to me, being out there in the community as a county commissioner, the universe is solutions, right? So when I look at like, how can we get this thing done? For example, cooling centers. We opened so many cooling centers during this last heat wave, this heat storm. And the solutions to how to get people cool and how to keep them safe in a massive heat wave spread the range from mutual aid of like people helping people in their own communities, checking on neighbors and elders, to churches opening up and coordinating with us to keep people cool, to our Spanish language translator friends who translated all the documents so we knew exactly who to get these to and that they could read them in the languages that were appropriate to them, all the way to groups like nonprofits and our emergency manager. So for me, I feel like the real value in having a county commissioner in the role of governor is that the universe is what brings us our solutions. So it's grassroots to legislature, to counties, to cities, to the federal government, to the state government. Anybody can have a solution to a problem that we have.
Well, as an aside, I really agree with you there. I think county commissioner is a much better way to prepare to be governor than a state legislator.
It's kind of funny, but it's such a traditional path that I think people are like, and personally, I should say that personally, I actually have no interest in being in the legislature. And I think that's an important component of running for and being in the legislature is actually wanting to be there. I feel like my strengths are really in building relationships, identifying people who have the knowledge and that I'm willing to hear from about certain issues, and then empowering them and checking on them, which is really that executive role, not the coalition building with each other and having to rely upon each other for the vote. I just want to go in there, listen to as many people as possible, build relationships, and then make the best decision, and then own it. And I feel like owning it, Alex, is one of those really important things, is when you can take responsibility for your decisions. I take responsibility for all of my decisions, but I think it would be really hard to take the responsibility for every other legislator's decision.
Now it's time for the lightning round. So first off, ducks or beavers?
Oh my goodness. You know, my whole point is to bring people together, to build community across these divisions. And you give me the most divisive question that you can answer and ask in Oregon. But I will say that I love duck eggs, but I think that we can fundamentally shape our landscape with a little bit of help from beavers.
There you go. That's the most unique take I've heard on it so far. What's your favorite Oregon landmark? Hopefully it's a little less divisive.
Oh my gosh. Being from the coast, I would say that just literally the beach. I'm not a person for grand things. So stepping out on the beach and seeing all the other people being able to access that is like, oh, it's so beautiful to me. Like, I love hearing all the different languages and all the different colors and shapes and sizes of people, and all their dogs are going wild. And if I really want to, I can just be out there by myself, and I can get out in the waves and surf in the morning and nobody will be around. So that is definitely my favorite. But, you know, you never ask an elected official what their favorite thing is in a state. Come on, Alex.
Oh, it's going to get worse. What's your favorite Oregon beer?
Oh my goodness. I would say that the one I'm most familiar with is the Terminator Stout. So that's really, yeah. But there are so many.
Yeah.
But you haven't asked me what's my favorite Pinot, because really that would be like the thing that would get me into danger in my community, is if I identified my favorite Pinot, right? Okay. Because we have like, so Pinot Noir is like the grape that we grow in Yamhill County. I mean, I don't grow it, but like everybody else seems to. Yeah. So my favorite wine grape is Pinot Noir. How about that?
Okay, that's good. That's less divisive. What's your favorite place in Eastern Oregon?
I would say honestly the Wallowa Mountains, but again, divisive, man. Very divisive.
Oh yeah, lightning round. Yeah, lightning's not the least destructive thing in the world.
Absolutely.
Right.
I must say that the first time you like go over the crest and you first see the lake at Wallowa Lake, I was like, so I've spent a lot of time in the subalpine zone. So I spent, we go up to Mount Jefferson, for example, in the North Cascades. I did my research up in the subalpine zone. It's a place that's really calls to me, and so when I came up over that rise and you can first see the lake, I was like, but I'm not in a subalpine zone, but I feel like I'm in a subalpine zone right now. That was pretty cool.
Nice.
It was probably the first time as an adult, realistically.
Okay.
Yeah. But so my family, so I grew up at the coast, but my mother's family are all from the Dalles. So I must say, I know it's not Eastern Oregon, but being up on that bluff, I mean, it's like, yeah, it's close to it in a biogeographical sense. How about that? Because when you're up on the bluff, it's not like down on the river, right?
Yeah.
And you look behind you and you've got the wheat fields. And my parents, so my mother's cousins all grew cherries. They've since passed on their land to other growers. They still own it, but a lot of cherry farmers in the Dalles. And I feel like there's something so amazing about irrigated cherries on like these desert steppes above the Columbia, and you're like looking down and you've got that strip of water, and then you've got the hills that are yellow, and then right in front of you you've got your cherry trees that are irrigated. It's for pure like panoramic beauty, I'd say Wallowas, but for that, like, this is a place where people can live and thrive. Those hills in the Dalles are pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm particularly well suited as a county commissioner in a purple county, in a county that's really a lot like a lot of other parts of Oregon, to bring people together. And I don't mean like ignoring the hateful rhetoric and like all hugging each other. I mean actually working together on the problems that we have. So we all have water issues, for example. And I think it's time that we actually address those in a way that helps each community itself. We all know that in Klamath, for example, there's a water crisis right now. Farmers and tribal members are trying to work together, and they need the help of the federal government. I also think that they need the backing of the state government as much as possible in figuring that work out. But then we have other communities here in the Willamette Valley who are struggling with their water systems because they're old, and there's sometimes surface water rights that aren't that great. We really need to bring people together around these things that we know we agree on, build those relationships, and move forward together, because we've got a place that is getting hotter, it's getting drier, and we're going to need everybody working together to get through it.